Okay, you ready to do this?
Yeah.
Here we go. Welcome everyone to Afterthoughts. This is a podcast where we rewatch movies, we compare our first and second impressions, and discuss a related topic. My name is Joshua Kazemi, and I'm here with my co-host, Cole Taylor.
Hello.
Today we are talking about Guardians of the Galaxy, since the new Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is coming out this weekend.
Woo.
Pumped to talk about this movie. One of my favorite MCU movies. You want to take us through the plot before we dive into our first and second impressions?
Yeah, I'll take us through the plot.
Let's do it.
There's a little boy. His mom's dying.
Little boy.
Hey, little boy. His mom's dying, and she calls him over to her bed. He's got his mixtape that's from her, classic songs, and she is like talking to him. Starts talking about his dad, but I think it's her dad who then is like, shh, or her brother or someone, I don't know. It's like, stop, don't talk about that. And then she's like, here, grab my hand, talking to Peter, the main character. And he doesn't, and then she dies, and he regrets it and starts crying, and they put him in the hallway, and then he runs outside and is abducted by a beam of light, which we assume are aliens. And then it goes to present day, where he is raiding some ancient planet and takes this sphere that then these other guys show up and also want, but he dispatches them easily. And then it turns out they're attacking his ship too. He gets in, fends them all off, and flies away. Only to then, when he is trying to sell this artifact, become attacked for it again, as he is also unable to sell it. And turns out this sphere thing's a big deal, and he doesn't know what to do with it. And so he teams up with a ragtag group of people after they all get caught and go to prison, and they're going to go try and sell this orb. And turns out this orb's a really powerful thing that this antagonist is trying to get to destroy the world. And that's actually pretty far into the movie that you find this all out, but I'd say that's the plot.
There it is, with a lot of great music from the 70s underneath all that.
Indeed.
So I think we saw this in 2014 when I was working at the movies, and I got to bring everybody for free, which was fun.
Yeah, I think so too.
And so I watched it a bunch because I could see it for free every day on my breaks. So yeah, let's talk about our first impressions. What did you think?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
A great movie. Also wonderful because it has a large cast, and unlike Avengers, we don't get to see these people individually before this movie. They just throw them all in right away and knitted them all together quite well. And we're able to just make them come together and the plot all come together in a really great way. So I thought it was fantastic and hilarious. It's really funny.
Yeah, I really liked this right off the bat. It just was so fun and funny, and I think it really does help that it's distinct from the other MCU movies. Like, it's completely detached at this point, and it is a team right away, and we don't have to watch them do individual solo movies. So it just contrasted what we had already had in the MCU up until that point really well, and then within this movie, the five main characters are all very, very different from one another. And it's great. It's just really fun. And the music is obviously a big part of this movie. And I love it because it is a big part of the movie. It's not a crutch. It's a strength. And it's just it's so well used in the movie. This was great. But one thing is, I remember watching this with Molly and her friends, and I remember them saying that this was their favorite Marvel movie or their favorite superhero movie. And that was like, what? Really? Like, better than all the others? I never considered this as like my favorite comic book movie or favorite MCU movie. I think it's a great one, but I think there's a level of praise for this movie that's far beyond what I would consider it deserves. Like, I remember people saying this was the new Star Wars and that this was the best the best comic book movie ever, and I just don't agree with either of those.
Which I also think is funny because it's not even a superhero movie. It's not a superhero comic. It's a like space adventure comic.
Sure, yeah.
I wouldn't consider them superheroes in the same way I'd consider like Iron Man 1 or Captain America. They're already set in this universe where everyone has these kind of quote unquote superpowers because they're all just aliens that can do different things.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, I mean, I'm sure it is considered a superhero comic, but in a way, it still stands alone and separate from the others, I would say, because it's already set in space. I would say it's more, while it's not the new Star Wars, and I don't agree with that as well, it's more like Star Wars than someone who suddenly finds out they have superhero abilities. These people don't find superhero abilities other than maybe Quill slowly figuring out he's not exactly human, but they like already have these abilities and are just coming together.
Yeah.
Fantastic though. Loved it the first time I saw it.
Yeah, it's very fun without compromising real character growth and moments that never forget who the characters are. I feel like the script is written so well in that all the characters are true to their setups, and they carry out their actions in a faithful way to their characters. I guess that was a weird way to say it.
Yeah, characters are great, plot's great, humor's great. It's all fantastic.
Yeah,
and all comes together very well.
But prior to this week, I'd seen the movie a handful of times, and the one thing that got weaker as the rewatchings went on was I didn't love the climactic battle, like the world-ending CGI catastrophic event. Like, I didn't care for it, and I think because the things that I love about this movie are the music, the characters, and the humor, and the climactic battle scene has less of those three elements than the rest of the movie. And at this point in the MCU, we've seen that battle a lot. So that became the moment when in the rewatches of this movie that I was just kind of like, yeah, let's get to the end. Let's get to the end. This just is sort of obligatory. I want to get to the end. So that hasn't held up super well in rewatches, and I was curious to see how it would be this time around.
But, I mean, at the same time, yes, this is later on in the MCU universe, cinematic universe, as far as having been made, but it's still kind of on its own. Before this, we've had individual superheroes that then come together in Avengers, and you kind of have to see all those together, while this one just stands alone by itself, and you could just go watch it by itself, and not need any of that prior knowledge. So someone could have just jumped in with this movie, and so they wouldn't have known that we've had those giant climactic battles before. And so that would be justified in this movie. And also, it's a space movie. So it kind of feels necessary, at least in the first one, to end it on this epic space battle. Maybe not if there's multiple sequels, which we obviously know there's at least one. Maybe not every time, but I think starting off, just making a staple of that.
Yeah.
But I can see why you wouldn't like it as much as the rest of the movie if those are the points that you enjoy about it.
Yeah, and I was fine with it the first time around. It was something that just didn't really hold up super well as time went on. But yeah, I was I was curious to see how it would hold up this time around.
Well, speaking of, how did it hold up?
I think it held up significantly better than I remember it holding up. Like, there are character beats obviously in that final moment, and there are interesting things that happen, and it's a lot shorter than I remember it being. Like, it doesn't really take up that much time, and then we get to like a quote unquote really Guardians moment, when they crash land on the planet and they have the dance off and all that stuff. It's like, that's what we've known these characters to have become, like these quirky, funny characters, and it ends in that moment, and I think that's all really great. I don't know why it didn't hold up for me on some viewings, but it did this time. But this time I enjoyed it much more than I remember enjoying it in rewatches.
The dance off has always kind of bugged me, just because it seems it's a very Guardians moment, But it just seems like it wouldn't happen that way. Like, Ronan wouldn't just stop and be like, what are you doing? I feel like Ronan would have just still slammed the hammer down on the planet.
Sure. I love that it's weird.
Yeah, it's definitely weird.
I really like that.
And definitely fits Peter and the whole situation. Just, I don't know if that's exactly how it would have played out.
What were your general impressions of the movie this time around?
See, this one's hard because, honestly, it pretty much just stays the same.
There you go.
This movie's just so good overall, and I found myself, if I was going to find weaknesses in it, I would have really had to be, like, poking really hard.
Sure.
Like, I would have to be specifically looking and breaking things rather than something just, like, hitting me in the face. And so, I don't know. I can't really justify saying weaknesses that I'm specifically searching for rather than, like, it just being there. So this one was hard for me because I really do just think it's that great.
That's awesome. Great. Well, was there anything that stood out to you this time that was good?
Not really. I'm just always impressed with how they're able to bring all the characters together.
Yeah.
How they're all battling at first, and then just in the prison, especially when Drax finally shows up, just how well they all mesh and just come together.
Yeah.
There's no awkwardness about it. It's just really well done. The only thing that gets less with every time, because, I mean, this is just bound to happen, is the humor. Because you've heard the jokes before. They're still funny, but the first time I heard Drax take everything literal, it was hilarious. Now it's just kind of funny. Like, it's still funny, but I've heard it before.
Drax might be my favorite character in the movie.
I think he might be mine too.
Because I mean, I love that. That's the kind of stuff I was struggling to explain earlier in the episode. Just like, so that you introduce Drax as a character who's super literal. Metaphors go over his head, and then to commit to that the entire movie. The script never forgets. There's never a moment where he should have acted as though he was someone that took something literally. And too often that happens in scripts. You just forget about things that you've set up. But this movie is committed to the idea that Drax is literal. And it works in comedic ways and it works in dramatic ways. It's awesome. Like, I love the moment where Drax apologizes to Rocket for luring Ronan to nowhere. The giant head. I love that moment where he apologizes because he does it. He hits the nail right on the head. He says exactly what he's thinking, and he doesn't sugarcoat any of it. He's literal. And for any other character, that line of dialogue wouldn't work. It would be too on the nose. But for that character, it works because of how well they set him up. And so it's a line of dialogue that benefits the character, and it's growth for his character. He says, I was just lashing out because I was angry. It's a great moment of growth for that character in that moment that couldn't happen any other way, solely on the fact that they wrote him that way. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Parts like that in the script continually blew me away.
Yeah.
So good.
Also, I think Groot was just very well done because just thinking about it, so really you only have to work on 4 characters, like dialogue wise, but then that's what it could have felt like. It could have felt like there were 4 characters and then there's Groot because he doesn't say much. But the way they brought him in is amazing. So he only says, I am Groot, but then you have to set up what does that actually mean contextually, whether Rocket's speaking on his behalf or it's conveyed in his tone or just conveyed in the general situation, and you just pick up. And they did that so well. And it just adds diversity to the group that you have this one character who can only say, I am Groot, but then it works so well on so many levels. I just really enjoyed Groot. And the fact, I think I enjoyed him so much because he could have fallen so short. It could have just been a character who says, I am Groot all the time and didn't really do much. But how they used him, I think they did really, really well. And I really enjoyed that.
I might be wrong here, and listeners, feel free to correct me, but I'm pretty sure I read that James Gunn actually did write dialogue for Groot. And so in the script, you have dialogue for Groot, and Vin Diesel just translates what's being said literally into different ways to say "I am Groot,"
That's crazy.
which is awesome. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's so thoughtful. Like it's such a great, and I think if that is true, that definitely helps convey everything that you just said. Like he really does feel like more than just a character that's repeating the same line over and over again.
It's amazing. We should find that script and see.
Yeah. I'll double check and see.
Because that's crazy. And I'm also curious to what he wrote down.
Yeah.
Also, how about that there's two people from Furious 7 in this?
Vin Diesel and
The antagonist that's with Ronan. That's also the antagonist that wants the God's Eye in Furious 7.
oh yes, yeah. The guy who goes who? Yeah.
Yes. Also, I was just really impressed with Dave Bautista's performance, coming from WWE and then being one of the best characters in this movie. I think is really impressive, because if you've watched movies with other WWE actors or wrestlers, whatever you want to call them, they're not always the greatest, but
No.
he really pulls this off.
Yeah, he holds his own for sure.
For sure.
There's a moment that I really like. I've always liked it in the prison where Rocket is explaining his plan to Gamora and Star-Lord, and then in the middle of it, Groot gets up and pulls off the whatever it is, he pulls off the alarm off the wall just as Rocket says, "Whatever we do, we need to make sure we get that last because it's going to set off the alarm."
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny. It's such a great moment, and I like it because it speaks to how great the script is. Like, stories need conflict. Characters have to get into trouble. So that's just like a necessary thing. And what's happened over years and years of movies and stories is that people have started to treat it as this necessary evil. Like it becomes this sort of like groaning sigh of like, yeah, of course that's how they're going to get into trouble, because a character is lying, or they made a mistake they wouldn't have made, or they clearly did something dumb just to get them into trouble. But that's a great moment because it's this funny, clever way to get them into trouble. So it's using something that needs to happen, but conveying it in such a funny, clever way. And I think that speaks to the whole movie is just riddled with funny and clever ways to lay out this sort of superhero formula, or this comic book movie formula, to represent it in a funny, clever way. It's one of the most charming things about the movie.
Yeah, when that scene happened, I actually, as he was doing it, I was like, I out loud said it. I think I watched it with both Alex and Jake. I was like, what a great scene of filmmaking. Like, what a great piece of filmmaking. Because you can't do that in other forms of media. Like, you can't write that in a book. You could, but it would be way more explicit.
Sure.
It was just amazing to see him, because in a book you would like have to intersperse Rocket's dialogue with, and Groot is doing this in the background, but in this movie you can just have Rocket talking, and then in the background you see Groot doing exactly what Rocket's like saying we need to do last. And I was just blown away with the fact that you can use this dialogue and visual aspect at the same time. Mm-hmm. It was just really impressive. And yeah. I said that out loud. I was like, that is so cool.
That's great. Yeah. And the shot in the movie, it's a static shot, and it's a wide shot of Groot of Rocket at the table explaining to Star-Lord and Gamora, and Groot's in the background, like you said. And it stays on that shot the entire time, which I think was a really smart decision to stay on that the whole time. It works perfectly like that. If they would have cut to other characters talking or whatever, I think it would have taken away from that moment. It's so good, exactly the way that it is.
Oh, it's just such a good movie.
But the prison, I don't understand, because when they first get there, when the Guardians first get there, they go straight to their cells. And nobody else does. Everybody else lingers. And then when Gamora goes to her cell, the door closes, she's by herself, and people are taunting her at her window. But then right after that, it cuts to a scene where a bunch of them are just in a giant room sleeping on each other. So I don't understand. Do some people get cells and others don't? Or Was that just for her protection because they knew everybody wanted to kill her?
I have no idea.
That always confused me. And I guess we don't need information about it, but it just is just a head scratcher.
Yeah. I think at most it would have been because they want to kill her.
Sure.
Or maybe even because they know none of the other characters are technically on Ronan's side, while she came from Ronan, and it's what is it, Novian? What are they called?
Nova?
Yeah, it's their prison. So they might even just be holding her for whatever reason, since she's technically like a prisoner of war rather than just a prisoner.
Yeah, maybe.
But you're right. There's no explanation of it, and it could be anything. So it is true. It's a bit weird.
Another thing I want to ask you about is, does it bother you that Groot isn't present when they finally say we're the Guardians of the Galaxy at the very end of the movie?
No.
Okay.
Because I mean it's because he's there and like I mean they're not just forgetting him or anything, and he made he's the one who made a noble sacrifice in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's. The thing that caught me the most is that they all of them hold hands, but Groot isn't there to he can't take any of that burden because he's dead.
Yeah.
So that was the one thing that stood out to me, but not really when he says we're the Guardians of the Galaxy. Because I think in his head he would have included Groot in that. Just
sure.
He's dead. He can't be there. Plus he is technically there.
Well, so that will let me
twig form.
Yeah, let's go right into that. How do you feel about the fact that he died, but not really?
I'm curious. So is this new Groot a different Groot?
No.
So would he have technically died, or is this the same Groot, just as a baby?
Okay, so I'm sure it'll get explained a little bit in the movie. We haven't seen it yet, obviously, but this is the reason why I'm fine with Groot dying, but not really. I really wasn't okay with it up until I read that James Gunn was committed to making sure that Groot was going to be a baby in the sequel. So he has to regrow. And I like that he, is dealing with the consequence of it. And we don't just get fully grown Groot again in the sequel. So as far as I'm concerned, he is a baby Groot. He's the same Groot, just as a baby.
Yeah, because I was wondering if it was, that would have been the sacrifice, that even though he comes back, he gives birth to a new Groot, not the same Groot.
Yeah.
But even as the same Groot, I'm fine with it.
Mm.
I'm not typically, and it would have, it's not fair. It's just because I enjoy his character so much, and the story's not over.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So if it had been the end of the series, and that would have been different, and if his character wasn't as enjoyable, as hard as that is to say, it might have been different. I don't know. His dying doesn't necessarily move the plot forward. It might have done it for Rocket, but not for everyone. He would have just been a noble sacrifice, but it doesn't completely move the plot forward in some way. So I don't think bringing him back necessarily does any damage either.
Yeah.
There's some deaths that could happen that would completely alter a main character's goal, or completely just change their directives and what they want to do. And then if they came back, that would have been bad. But this doesn't bug me as much as that.
So you mean let's say if a certain agent died and that motivated a group of superheroes to avenge him, and then it turned out that agent didn't die.
Yes.
Or was brought back to life.
Right. Correct.
That would be the worst thing. That would be
the worst.
4 seasons of what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Get it.
I don't like that one.
Okay.
Also, I don't like that pretty much no one has died in the MCU yet. Yeah. Besides someone who just showed up in that movie. Whatever.
The 4th Avengers movie is going to be Avengers: Bloodbath.
We'll see. I hope that at the end, because at the end they always have blah 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 will return, or whatever. I hope it's a bunch of will not return.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I like how they teased us in the second one with they would show his dream sequence where everyone's dead
Oh, right.
in the trailer.
Yes.
Oh, but no one really dies. Cool.
No, and the
Way
shield
to go,
didn't get
Marvel.
ripped in half. Yeah. Should we move on to seconds or topic?
Yep. Let's do it.
Let's do it. This is our second topic time about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's the Marvel Cinematic Universe Volume 2.
Volume 2.
That's right. So, I don't know where to start. There's so much to talk about.
I know.
Let's. I wrote down this little thing. It's an Infinity War wish list.
Go on.
And we can just go through it. Like, so the first thing I have on my wish list is someone dies.
Yeah.
I want somebody to die.
Someone main? Like a main character?
I don't even know. Like, maybe not, maybe Cap and Tony survive still, and, somebody else dies. Maybe Scarlet Witch dies. And I
Wow.
think that's even okay, too. But, it would be great if Cap or Tony died.
Oh, yeah.
In a good way.
Not in a bad way?
No, not in a bad way.
I feel like someone has to die
Yeah.
going against Thanos.
Yeah.
Just
I think
because his
so.
thing is death.
Yeah,
He loves death.
we need to know that he is a worthy villain, which is another point on my wish list. I need Thanos to be the ultimate villain thus far.
Yeah.
He has to be good. He has to be interesting. He has to be Heath Ledger's the Joker. He has to be a formidable foe,
Yeah.
or it's just not going to work. You have all of these heroes, like 20 something heroes, and they need a strong villain.
Which I kind of wish they would have shown some semblance of his strength thus far.
Yeah.
I think a perfect example would have been in Guardians of the Galaxy against Ronan.
Uh-huh.
Because Ronan flat out defies him, and I think it would have been awesome to see Thanos still go head-to-head with Ronan, even when Ronan has an Infinity Stone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe if Ronan had more, but just one isn't enough to stop Thanos, or something like that, just so we can know, oh my goodness, how, like, the gap between the Avengers and him is, even now, astounding.
Yeah.
I wish we had something like that, just to judge it, just so we know how far the gap is.
But this actually leads me to another wish list point. I hope that Thanos plays mind games with the Avengers. I hope that his first instinct is to taunt them, to mess with them, to play tricks on them before all out brawling. Like, I really want him to be this intelligently wicked villain.
I'm also curious to what the all-out brawl will be like.
Yeah.
Because since it's just like a central figure, is it just going to be this crazy epic battle with just him, or
Is he going to have an
is it gonna
army
be
of some kind?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he has henchmen.
Yeah, I mean, he's gotta.
And I
What
also
main
wonder,
antagonist
like,
doesn't have henchmen?
I also wonder, like, is this going to be an off-planet battle? Is it going to be on Earth? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't really know which one I want more of. Maybe a little bit of both.
A bit of both.
Finally, in the Guardians episode, we get to say it. That's from Guardians of the Galaxy, everyone. We say it in almost every episode, and here it is.
There it is.
Do you want to see them defeat Thanos? Should Thanos survive?
Oh, I don't know. It's a good question. I feel like everyone survives no matter what, so what's it matter? I don't know. Maybe not the first time they fight him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, having a recurring villain is kind of lame as well.
Yeah, I kind of just want it to be definitive one way or the other, I guess.
If he doesn't die, I don't think they should all out defeat him either. It should be like a mutual defeat. And like we know he's going to come back with something else.
Could be interesting.
I don't know. Like not like they don't defeat him but he survives. I don't think I'd want that. I kind of want him to beat the Avengers first. Kind of want them to lose.
Yeah, definitely.
And then they can defeat him for real.
Mm-hmm.
Like later, not I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not the overall creator of this universe, so
Should Phase 3 be the end of the cinematic universe?
I don't know. Maybe.
Do you think it should ever end?
No, go on forever.
It's kind of curious. Like, I mean, I have no idea what Phase 4 will be like. Nobody does. So it's interesting, the idea of like, what if this is the peak and they never really get back to it? So should they stop here and finish while they're on top? But, they probably won't.
Yeah, I know. They probably won't.
Kevin Feige will probably bail, and then they'll have to find somebody else, and it probably won't be as good.
And then they'll stop.
I've always racked my brain, like, when they keep going, what kind of things would I want to see in Phase 4? I would want to see a really drastic change. And so what does that mean? Does that mean like more personal stories with action in them? Smaller scale stuff? Just something drastically different from what we've already seen in the first. At that point, it would be like 15 or so movies.
If we did a Phase 4, I would want Marvel to have the rights back to all of their characters.
Yeah, that would be nice.
I'd want them to have X-Men, and I'd want them to have Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm.
Then we could do some interesting things. I think that would be cool.
That would be cool. It'd be really interesting if like all the main 6 that we've had so far, Cap, Thor, Hulk, Hawkeye, Black Widow, and Iron Man, if all of them were gone at the beginning of Phase 4, maybe because some of them died, but maybe because they're just in hiding or whatever reason you want. It would be interesting if like maybe if all of Phase 4 they were gone and they came back at the end of Phase 4 maybe, or at the beginning of Phase 5, and you focused on some of these newer characters like Doctor Strange and the Guardians, and even newer characters like Black Panther and Miss Marvel, so that we miss the original crew and they come back in some form.
For sure.
That'd be cool.
Finally saw Doctor Strange, by the way.
All right. What'd you think?
It was good.
I like it, man.
Yeah.
I thought it was fun.
I'd say it's just good, though.
Okay. Sure.
Definitely not the most phenomenal.
No. And it could have been because, the guy's magic.
No.
But the only real magic he does is like sparkler magic.
Yeah.
So...
Sparkler.
So true. I guess you don't want to break the bank and say that this is the most powerful character in the MCU so far, so you just start them off slowly, but it did feel a little bit like they were just sort of, like dancing on that line instead of definitively saying one way or the other. So, I don't know. I think it was a good start.
I really did like what he ended up doing in the end, the like infinite loop thing. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's so funny.
But I did think he learned way too fast. I get it's a movie and we have to speed along, but I thought it was dumb that she threw him out and then took him right back in. I thought it was dumb that she like took him to the Himalayas or Mount Everest, wherever she took him, which is both the same, whatever. And then he gets back instantly. I don't know. It bothered me how fast I get he's a prodigy, but I don't know. But overall, I still liked it. And I think he will be a cool addition.
Yeah, it was a fun one.
I'm very excited for the 3 that are coming out this year, though.
Yeah, I was going to ask, which of the 3 are you most excited about? Guardians, Spider-Man, or Thor?
Probably Guardians.
All right. Good one.
I'm excited for a new Spider-Man, but I'm also not excited for a new Spider-Man, if that makes sense.
You're a little nervous?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And there's just been 2 remakes already, so it's like...
Yeah.
I'm excited to see if Marvel can do something better, but at the same time, it's Spider-Man. And I'm also excited for Thor. I do love Thor, so I just really like Guardians. I like all 3 of them. I just say I'm most excited probably for Guardians.
I think
Thor's already had 2 movies and 2 Avengers, so...
That's true. But I think I'm most excited for Thor.
Do you think so?
Yeah, because from everything that they've been releasing about it, it just seems like it's going to be so different from the other 2 Thor movies, and that's exciting to me. Have you seen the images they've released?
Mm-mm.
He's got short hair, for one thing. He doesn't have Mjolnir. He's got like a battle axe and like battle armor, and he's got like war paint on his face. And the Hulk is going to be in the movie, and it looks like it's going to be something completely different.
Yeah.
For Thor, and that just excites me.
Yeah, that does sound exciting then.
And Taika Waititi is directing it. He's the guy who directed What We Do in the Shadows, that vampire movie that we watched.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm super excited to see what he does with Thor.
Well, then that definitely excites me more. Because I love the Thor movies, contrary to everyone else in the world.
Yeah, I know. I like them a lot too, and they're often considered some of the worst. And it's just like I think that's totally unfair. First of all, the worst is the Incredible Hulk, so you can't you can't be Thor just by matter of fact.
See, I just hate that everyone loves Captain America's movies, which are garbage, and then everyone hates on Thor.
How dare you? I think Thor 1 and 2 are probably better than the first Captain America movie, but Captain America 2 and 3 are wonderful.
Yeah, whatever. Says everyone in the world.
Although I like the first one too. I like them all.
I know you do. You just love Cap.
I love Cap. I love the MCU version of Cap. Cap is not my favorite character in the comics because I think Chris brings a humility to the character that's necessary to make him more likable. And I love this version of the character.
Yeah.
I've got one more bit of news that's not really MCU. It sort of is, but it's something I definitely wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
At the time we're recording this podcast, it's been announced that things might have changed, but it's been announced that Joss Whedon is directing, writing, and producing a Batgirl movie for the DC Extended Universe.
Goodness.
He's switching sides on us, man.
Hey, gotta go where the money is.
I think this is a great call for DC. Like, of course, get a great filmmaker to make your Batgirl movie. Awesome. Good. Finally, we'll get at least one good one.
Yeah. But come on, your Batgirl movie?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I mean, given everything that Joss has done, he's Buffy. He's the champion for great, strong female characters, superhero characters. I think he could totally do it.
Yeah, but I mean, come on. The Batgirl movie?
What would you prefer?
I don't know. A more upfront character. Even, I would have said Wonder Woman if you're going to go strong female characters.
Sure.
But Batgirl's such a secondary DC character.
That's why I like it, though, because I think he'll play her like an underdog.
Okay.
I trust Joss, man.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Barbara Gordon, can she do it?
Barbara Gordon, can we trust her?
Where is she? Well, guess we've digressed enough.
All right. Is that the show?
That's the show.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. We really appreciate it. If you want to keep supporting the podcast, it'd be great if you could write us a review on iTunes and share this podcast with a friend. You can tweet at us using the hashtag AfterthoughtsPodcast. You can find our Twitter handles, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff's in the description. Next week, we are talking about, I don't know, but it'll be in the description. So check it out there, watch that movie, and tune in next week. Yeah. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll see you next week.
See ya.